Great responses. You guys did well on question number 1. Let's see how you do on number 2, shall we? And that is about public-private partnerships. How have they contributed to the conservation movement, the conservation? Bill, I see you shaking your head. You want to tackle that one first? You're all over that one, aren't you?
Allow me to use residue management, that example. In 1990, we were failing to meet the requirements of the 88 Farm Bill, or 85 Farm Bill. SCS then, through CTIC, reached out to partners like Monsanto to form the market of the residue management initiative as the solution to meet the conservation tillage and compliance situation. I'll never forget a trip out here, probably to this building, with Dave Sheets and Becker. Are you Becker somewhere, John? Yeah. And myself. We come out to a meeting with the top staff of Monsanto. And that year, the ag press, the herbicide, machinery, and the fertilizer industries all concentrated their advertising efforts to promote residue management. And Monsanto, I might add, really set the example. When all parties had something to gain, that is profit, it works. CTIC was really the vehicle to do what government does not do well, and that's marketing and working with partners. Thank you.
Okay. Who wants to jump in?
I'd like to jump in because I think Bill's hit the order correct, and that to me it's private-public partnerships, not public-private partnerships. There are the working farmlands of this nation and many of the nations of the world are private. The companies that have them inspired to be more profitable, better conserving operations are, if you will, private. We've got the blessings of the land-grant system. We've got a nation with a great array of university-trained, public university-trained and educated farmers, ranchers, foresters, and so forth that represent, if you will, public investments in it. But I want to follow up approvingly on Bill's point that it's the private first, it's the public later, and one of the reasons is that with all due respect to our great state cons in NRCS public service across the nation, I think it'll be the private leadership that enables the partnerships to thrive with public support.
Okay.
That's a fascinating point about private first, public second, because if I were allowed to ask a question rather than respond to a question, I'd be asking, is the private-public partnership as robust and vibrant today as it was 20 or 30 years ago? And I'm concerned as an ardent conservationist about what the answer may be on that issue.
Bruce?
Well, if anything, maybe it's a little more fragmented. You've got folks chasing dollars with NGOs, chasing dollars with the Farm Foundation or with the various foundations, and all of that's good, but it seems to be a more fragmented kind of thing. The other thing, when I look back at where we've made investments in agriculture in a conservation orientation, I believe that maybe 20, 30 years ago, when we were giving birth to the various commodity checkoffs, we may have made the wrong decision when we said that checkoffs shouldn't be investing in production research. Because when we said we shouldn't invest in production research, that in turn made it so that checkoffs couldn't invest in conservation as well. Now, a few checkoffs aren't hampered with that today. And as a result, you see a significant investment that's out there. And I'll call out John Becker again. You know, USB is making a significant investment in sustainability now that they're able to do. Others are still feeling hampered by that. And so we have a significant financial resource that can be forward-leaning that's actually held back in our agriculture community in being able to do that. The other thing is, quite frankly, the kind of polarized climate that we have today politically is poisoning the well on the partnership side of things in being able to work forward in conservation. And that really concerns me, because almost every success we've had in the last 30 years on conservation has been because of partnerships. Whether it's private-public, public-public, private-private, or just neighbors getting together, which is pretty darn powerful. This climate is really polarizing that, and I'm fundamentally concerned about what I see going on.
Brent, looks like you're kind of itching to say something.
I'm gonna hold-
You're okay, okay. Jane?
Well, just to give some more examples where I think partnerships are working very well is some recent research projects that I know of. Again, I think of the drainage management research. Many of the NRCS Conservation Innovation Grants have partnered private industry together with researchers from various entities. For example, in ag drainage management, we worked with the Ag Drainage Management Coalition, the industry together with the researchers, and with CTIC as well in communication to really move that forward. And I don't know how it was compared with 20 or 30 years ago, but I know that there are very strong and robust partnerships that are moving our knowledge base further ahead. And I want to also emphasize that it's not just private companies and maybe the government agencies, so that the public doesn't always communicate as well as it should either, and so partnerships are needed to move those forward. I've been privileged to spend one sabbatical partially at USDA and EPA, and now I'm partially at USDA again, and that's really a great experience for a land-grant university person. I'm also delighted that some of the non-governmental organizations, as you mentioned, the Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, are here and part of the conversation as well. So partnerships are maybe broader than we have thought of in the past, and I think there are exciting ways that they're moving conservation forward.
Cool. Steve, you've been on both sides of that public-private equation.
Yeah, like I said, Neil, I couldn't have said where I wanted to land for over the years. And I was just sitting here thinking, I agree with Brent. I like the private is lead. And the other thing I thought on the question, kind of like Bruce, I like to ask my own question. I mean, the question inspires me to ask another question, which is, can we think of a case where there was ever a successful conservation effort where there wasn't a good private-public partnership? I can't really think of any. You're right, I've been on both. I started in the 80s and 90s working for the State Water Quality Agency, or Missouri Department of Natural Resources. But I worked on soil and water program issues, and everything we did there worked through the local soil and water conservation districts, the local farmers. There was the neighbor-to-neighbor program through then SCS, I believe it was, or farmer-to-farmer, neighbor-to-neighbor program, where farmers would showcase to other farmers conservation, a real leadership. But it was a partnership between the state, the federal SCS in those days, and the farmers. But yeah, I'd ask the question, is there anything successful that happens in conservation if there isn't a good private-public partnership?
Good question.
If I may. Building particularly on Steve and Jane's point, a quick example. Madison, Wisconsin, known in many circumstances as 90 square miles surrounded by reality, nonetheless has broken out and is celebrated in Madison Magazine, and I brought a copy with me, the person of the year for Madison, and it's the Wisconsin dairy farmer, on water quality issues. And the kind of thing that Jane's talking about here, that Steve mentioned about partnership, is more eclectic, perhaps more, if you will, coming out of a fragmented base than you would. But among the partners that are making water quality improvements in the Madison, Wisconsin area lakes, the upper reaches of the Rock River, successful, and this is known to some of you in the room, are first and foremost the landowners, the dairy producers, who've got the most skin in the game. They've got major challenges in manure handling and management, among others. They've also got to pay taxes. And secondly, motorboaters and people who own property on the lake, again, on the lakes, private interest. Those were the two entities, and of course there are many other players, that kind of kick-started the county board into putting up money and encouraging the city of Madison's water treatment system, sewage treatment system, to begin incentivizing farmers for improvements in drainage management, for better manure handling, and so led, if you will, privately by interests of motorboats and dairy farm operators. We've got something that now has a public relations dimension, has a political dimension that is crossing the party lines completely, and you can't be between a Republican and a Democrat on that issue. And it is a terrific accomplishment. So,
great example. Thank you. Bruce?
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about another great example of partnership that's out here, and that's really kind of why we're celebrating today, and it's CTIC.
Yeah.
And it is the value of what you can do based off of knowledge and the importance of knowledge-based conservation. And that's what CTIC, with a 30-year legacy, has been. And I've watched the organization ebb and flow, and I am just really proud of what I see the folks around this room have accomplished with CTIC in the last 3 decades. This group is vibrant, it's large, it's pulling together valuable information and disseminated it in a neutral manner that is really an excellent standard for all others to bear and to replicate. And it's a prime example of that partnership. Because to make partnerships work, we have to recognize that they work on a local level. And so that's part of why it's a little fragmented. It's got to be the right collection of folks who want to work together. And so this year it's in Madison. Next year the hot spot may be in Gan Valley, South Dakota, or the next year it may be over there. And the importance of having a CTIC and the other entities like it that are out there that are providing that knowledge base to wherever a partnership bubbles up is extraordinarily important. And that's, we can't have this conversation on partnership without everybody in this room giving a pat on the back to the person to the right or to the left of them, because it's the ownership you all have done in the organization.
You know, you think about it, over 30 years a lot has happened. And we talked in the first question about the technology, but if that technology transfer hadn't been there with CTIC and others in the partnership, the coalitions and the like, we wouldn't be as far along as we are in conservation today as we are. Yeah. All right. Anything else on partnerships, or shall we move on? We'll move on. We old folks out here, are there youth out there? Really
Chief Richards is objecting to your call. He wants to tell you the answer on that.
Chief wins.
No, but Paul, I don't think there's ever been a time in agriculture when youth was more important than today. I mean, these kids talk with their fingers. They don't even go through the paces that we went through. The advantage is going to the youth that are really technical, with a technical advantage in computer technology. And I think we should quit worrying about who is going to farm the land and where they're going to come from. I think we're here, we have them.
I'll be excited to hear what Sarah's panel has to say about that.
Let me jump in on
Oh my goodness, another chief.
I know it's going to be amazing.
I'm surrounded by chiefs.
Comment. I couldn't agree with you more, Chief. I mean, you look at it. I came out of school in the 1980s, and my father said, "Don't come home to the farm." Those were tough years, you know, and we're sending people away. I worked for 6 years with the National Association of Wheat Growers. Didn't meet another person my age in that association until I went to the Red River Valley of North Dakota and met sugar beet farmers. Nobody my age was ever in agriculture. Yeah. You look at it now, young folks, it's tough, but if they got a willing partner, if they got a father, a family standing behind them, there's opportunities in agriculture, and there's folks going back into it. Now, the other thing to be watching is this whole sustainability movement, there's a ton of folks going to school studying sustainability and climbing into it. I got kids going to school in Fairfax, Virginia, 16 and 14 years old. They could not be prouder of what Daddy's doing right now because he's working on this thing called sustainability. It is very fashionable in the community. Half of my time as a consultant is explaining to mid-20-year-olds, you know, where this sustainability movement and agriculture intersect. And there's a lot of opportunity for all of us in this field, because what we do in a profession of agriculture is extraordinarily exciting and vibrant for the food community and the sustainability community and the NGO community in a way that it's never been before. And for the first time in most of our adult lives, there's actually room for young people to come back to the farm. These are exciting times.
It is. Agriculture is a great thing to be in.